Welcome back to the pack, everyone. This is Three Dogs 3D Prints. I wanted to show you not just printing, but when you have printers, you will have to do some maintenance, annual maintenance every hours of printing, or months, days, weeks. We are going to focus on the Kobra X's because I've been doing the majority of my printing on them. The OG here, the professor, he has upwards of 1,400 hours of printing. Magneto has closer to 800 hours of printing, which is a lot, but isn't as much as others. It's all relative based on how much you print, how many printers you have, etc. So I wanted to show what you have to do for some of the deep cleaning, not just kind of wiping it off, but some of the deep cleaning, which means we will have to turn this over, take out some of the screws from the bottom, and expose the bottom to get some of the greasing done. Um, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start. What we'll do is there is an Anycubic wiki page, and then all the different printers they each have their own page of troubleshooting, but also annual maintenance. So you can look at those as needed. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you how we do that here. So the first thing you do is you'll want to take the covers off. Um, for that, I actually want to show you. So what I want to do is I wanted to show you first. You take these covers off, but you'll need some isopropyl alcohol. I have 99.9%, kind of the highest you can get. You'll want some paper towels. I have some Q-tips and some pads, some gauze pads, and then you have the lubricant that comes with it, and then you have this to help clean it off and apply some of the grease, um, some of the extra rubber things, and then some of the uh, wrenches that come with it also. So uh, with that in mind, oh, and also you'll have some compressed air. There are some fancy things you can have. You can um, print out some extra things you can have. You can buy some extra ones. That's all great. We're just going to keep it basic here, just to show you what the basics of what you need, and then you can go up from here. You can print out some jigs to keep the screws in. You can print out some things that fit on top of here or that can go inside of here. It's all great. You can do what you want. I just wanted to keep it basic here. So what we're going to start with is, of course, basic paper towel and some alcohol. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to wipe these down. You can get some hot water and some Dawn, some basic Dawn. You don't want to have this fragrance or the scented ones because that has additives in it. Just some basic Dawn and hot water will clean these off nice. But what you can do is what they suggest also is to use the alcohol just to get anything extra on there. Let's do that for both beds. We have just to get, I mean, even just the grease from your fingers go on here, which can affect some of the more sensitive filaments, TPU, PETG, sometimes the PLA. You have the silks PLAs. So we'll just wipe these off and put these to the side for now. And then you have exposes the basic magnetic plate, which we will wipe down. So yeah, you'll want to make sure these are wiped down nice. There's these wipers. You want to make sure those are still good and wiped down also. These come off. Put these to the side. You can come in here. You want to make sure the nozzle, so you can see some filament still on there. So wipe down the nozzle with some of the alcohol. Take these off. Wipe down the nozzle. The cutter here. You can wipe those down. Sometimes you want to make sure that that's nice and smooth. Wipe that down. You can take this off and make sure the mechanic's in there. It's not a big thing to do, but you just want to make sure that's nice and smooth, nothing's bent, nothing's stuck. And then from there, we'll go to this metal part here. Like I said, there's some things you can print out that get really into the grooves, which could be helpful for you if you want. But you'll want to wipe that down, move stuff, and really get in there. Wipe that down, and we'll go to the next one. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but as you can see, it is coming clean just from this basic wipe down. It's coming clean, so that's good. Okay, now we got that. What you'll do is you'll take these plastic parts off because they give you access to the belts that you want to lubricate. Okay, get those off. And then you just take the compressed air, get that. You can go inside of there. You can see some stuff's coming out, which is a good thing. Okay, I'm going to go back and forth to make sure everything is okay. So next, you can take this part they give you, and then you can start by just making sure there's nothing. I mean, you can get some rope, a little. You can buy some of the extra rope stuff. It kind of wraps around here, and you can really get that down. It's like it's called mechanical floss or something like that. You basically like flossing the screw here, the Z-axis screw, I think. See, there you go. You want to make sure this is all cleaned out because eventually this can start wearing down parts faster than what you want. Because there you go. I don't know if you can hear that. That's the belt. You want to make sure those are tight after we're done here, but we'll go from here. All right, that's so what you can do. Take a paper towel, wrap it around here, and make sure all the little dust particles are removed. There's a belt up here. You might not be able to see it, but this moves up and that moves it up and down. Same thing over here. This does get pretty dirty. That's how you know you're doing it. You know what you're doing. Clean this all out. Okay, what we'll do is we'll clean first and then we'll put the lubrication on there after we're done. Let's move all this to the side so we don't lose it. Okay, I think we're at a good point where we'll flip this over and we will show you all the screws to take off so you can get into it and lubricate all the belts. So I'll just show you on this one first. This side. And there's different, so what you want to do, of course, you take this off and you got it, of course, now that we can see the bottom here, we want to take these out. You don't want to put too much pressure and break anything, but it just slides right out. So, yep, so there's one more here, one more there. There you go. You can leave it on there on the base plate because this plate all will come off. And there's one little thing here. There are a screw under each one of these. You will have to pry this off, which is kind of a pain because it doesn't always go back correctly. So that's always, that's an improvement that Anycubic can make for us. So we'll take the Allen wrench and then we'll go through it and make sure that the screws are in the right place because they are different sizes. Like I said, you can print out a jig that there's on Maker Online that will help you keep these where they need to go. So you might be asking what screws to take out. It's colors, so you don't need to make sure of these because these are the lighter gray. You're taking off the bottom darker gray, so any of the screws that are in the darker gray here, you won't take off. So we'll go with these now. There we go. Now you can see that comes off nice. Put that to the side. We'll start with this. There is stuff in there. You can see this filament. If you can see, it comes out. So what you'll want to do is take some of your compressed air. There you go. You can just don't put anything on it, just a regular paper towel and wipe it down so there's nothing excess, anything there. So now that we have this bottom exposed, there's a couple things you'll want to look at. There's a couple of the rollers here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the belt here. It moves the plate forward and backwards. It's right here. So you'll want to make sure that's clean. So again, I'm going to take the plastic that they gave us. I use this because some people use screwdrivers, but you don't want to use anything that's metal or hard or that has a point on it because you don't want to scratch into the metal. You don't want to rip any of the belts. Even tiny micro rips in there could, in the long run, tear it. So I always like to use this plastic rounded edge here. And this is hard to get into, so don't worry, you can't get every single little part, but you'll go in there and wherever you can get. And then the bottom here too, you can turn it over if you want. So that's wiped down. So make sure there's nothing left in there. So I think we got it all cleaned out. Now what we'll do is take some of the Q-tips and some of the lubricant that comes with, or you can buy different little packages. And if you do buy third-party tubes of this, there is something you can print out. It screws right onto the top of the tube, and you can follow the screw that's on here or wherever that it's printed out for. There's some great stuff on there on Maker Online. So we'll just take a little dab, because if you have too much grease on there, that'll accumulate dust and debris, and then that'll eventually wear down the belts and the parts faster. So you won't put just enough to lubricate the belts, not too much where all this extra debris will catch. So you'll find the belt, and I'll just put a dab on there. There. Not too much. Wherever the belt you can see here. And then you want to go forward and backwards so you can get to places of the belt that you couldn't see before. Plus it'll distribute the lubricant as throughout the whole belt that you can't get to. So like I said, you don't need to get every single part of the belt, because as it moves, it'll distribute the lubricant over the whole belt. So I'm just putting tiny little dabs on here. And then the rollers, you don't want to miss the rollers there. Go. All right, once you feel comfortable, you got all the things you wanted to, everything's clean and then lubricated, we'll go the reverse. We'll put stuff back on, we'll put it back up, we'll start greasing the the screw and everything else, and it'll be all good to go. So let me put. When you put this on, you'll make sure none of the wires get caught, nothing's jammed in there, so you don't ruin anything. Goes on right nice. So if you have the jig where all the screws are in, you know exactly where everything goes. I have it laid out here. And if you have the nice magnetic ones, you can put them on here. And sometimes what you can do, I spent a lot of time in the Air Force as aircraft mechanic, so I did a lot of this, is you'll thread the screw backwards a couple times just to make sure it gets on, threaded in, so you don't cross thread. Cross threading is where it's put in, but the screw's at an angle, so all the threads aren't getting in there. So it won't fully seat in there. So what you want to do is you want to go backwards just a few, just sometimes there's a click or a thud where you can feel the screw get put in, and then you go back and tighten it, righty-tighty. That just makes sure nothing's cross-threaded, everything's put on there correctly. And if you want to make sure you don't want to over tighten it, you want to put it in just enough, just so you can start putting everything else on. Because if you tighten one side, the other side will kind of come off, and then when you try to screw that side back on, it'll go on at an angle and it won't fully seat. So that's why in directions sometimes you read don't tighten until all the screws are on. That's why. It's because if you tighten one side before the other, it'll come off as an angle, and then when you screw that other side on, it won't fully seat in there. It'll be awkward at an angle, and it won't fully go on. So you'll just want to get these screws in enough where you just start to feel that resistance of it being fully seated in, and then you'll go to the next screw. Yes, just enough. You're not tightening it, you're just putting it in there. Inches you want to with this. There's some really cool screwdrivers that you just press a button and it'll automatically screw, and it'll stop when it feels resistance. You can get some regular screwdrivers, or you can just go with the Allen wrenches that come with the printer. It's all up to you how detailed you want to get, what your budget is. You can get really fancy with this, or you can just stay like I am with what Anycubic gives you. They give you a set of wrenches that you can use, and everything works just fine there. So there's nothing wrong with using what Anycubic gives you. They give you everything you need. So don't feel like you need to go out and buy this $30 automated screwdriver. You can if you want. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing wrong with using what's given to you here. Now that I got that last screw in, I'm going to go back and not over tighten, because you don't want to strip any of the screws out, because that's not a good thing. But you just want to go back and make sure everything's tight. So, because there's a lot of vibration going on when you print, so you want to make sure these screws are nice and tight on there, so nothing kind of wiggle loose as you print. Okay, now that all the screws, I'm comfortable with those being tightened down. You'll want to make sure all the wires are put back in place. Sometimes if you're worried, if you don't know where things go, Anycubic makes it easy where usually the size is perfect, but what you can do is take your phone out, take a picture of it before you take it off, so then you can refer back to it and make sure that everything is back the way it's supposed to be. But like I said, Anycubic makes it nice where one only fits in its one place. Now that we're comfortable with everything back on, we'll put this right side up and start lubricating the top part. So like I said, there are tubes you can buy, and then there's something you can print out that you put on a tube that you can get in here with that, and that's perfectly fine. Makes it a lot easier, and make sure that everything's good, but there's nothing wrong with using your finger, using a Q-tip, just anything that you can get in there. Like I said, just like the bottom part, small dabs. You want to put it on. Make sure you don't get the gantry or any of the plastic part, because like I said, that grease accumulates dust and debris, and it goes places where you don't want it. So we'll get that side. And then we'll move it up and down, just like the underside, to spread out the lubricants, and so you can get to some of the places you couldn't before. You can tell it's a lot smoother than it was when you started. Or you can slowly do it this way. You don't want to make sure you break anything. And then make sure you get the other side. I did skip that you don't have to, but what you can do is you take these out. Like I said, you can get an adapter you can print out, or you can just use your finger. Take these out. You want to make sure there's no debris in here. Maybe spray it out. Make sure the connection's good. Make sure there's nothing in there. And then you can put it back on at the end. You can do that if you want. And then you'll want to do this top metal part here. Nice, small, thin layer of lubricant right on it. Back and forth, and then go back to where you couldn't get it before. Okay, nice and smooth. And then, like I said at the beginning, there's a little belt here. You want to make sure it's tight, nothing's wrong with it. So you got this, you got underneath in here. So last thing, what I like to do is I like to take one more hit, make sure you didn't miss anything. And then take a paper towel and wipe everything down, make sure there's nothing, no excess lubricants, no fingerprints or anything, nothing's on there, just to make sure everything's nice and clean. And then you put the plates back on, and what I'll do is I'll do this next one. Once I'm done with that, I'll put it all up there and I'll show you what the next step is. So I will be right back. All right, so I'm almost done with my second one. I did skip a step before I put this up. There's two little things that I did miss. You want to put this back on. Make sure that's snapped in there. And then the feet. You don't want to miss putting the feet back on the bottom, or it'll get really weird as it vibrates, and it's going to shake, and it's going to be really not going to be right. So make sure you put this plate back on the bottom and the feet back on. There's usually, it's still pretty tacky usually, so it's pretty, at least the first time you take it off and put it on. It'll go back on after a while. I'm sure it'll go off, but we'll get there. Is it? So I just want to just make sure you remember to put the plate back on and the feet back on before you put this up. All right, so now that we got everything put back together, put up, ready to go, want to make sure these rubber sleeves, you can put back those on. These come, you can order these. These are pretty cheap. They come with nozzles, so if you order a couple more nozzles, you have these. They're pretty good to go in and out, making sure everything's wiped down in there. Putting that back on. And then you want to make sure, of course, you unplug it before you do anything, so plug it back in. All right. Make sure it turns back on. And then you'll want to do the configuration. Go through all the different configurations you have that are built in, just to make sure everything's still going. Nothing's put together wrong. There's nothing that's wobbling. So let that boot back up. put this plate back on. So controls, you go printy, calibration, and it's just some check marks you put in, but I'll just do all of them just to make sure everything's still working right. All right, it says approximately 35 minutes. So we'll start that and we'll let that go. And then after that's done, you're free to print. So hopefully everyone found this helpful. Come back. We'll do this again sometime. Well, you don't have to do this intricately every time. Just at a certain major milestone, you'll want to take this apart. But every once again, just wipe it down, clean it down. Everything's good. Thanks for joining, everyone. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see everyone else later. Thanks.